Yes, don't let the title put you off. But he did it. Glenn Greenwald referred to Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, and Donald Trump as socialists. Now, we're going to tell you um, why you shouldn't be too upset. And no, I do not think that Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, nor Donald Trump are socialists. Not one bit. And neither do I don't really think Glenn Greenwald literally thinks that either. But as you know, Glenn Greenwald is a civil liberties attorney, and he's also an author of several books, including Citizen Four, How Would a Patriot Act, a Tragic Legacy, sorry, No Place to Hide. One Pulitzer Prize, founder of The Intercept, and he is a socialist himself. He currently lives in Brazil, married to David Miranda. Brazil's current government is led by far right wing President Jair Bolsonaro, who pretty much wants a dictatorship in Brazil and pretty much said so when campaigning for president a few short years ago. Glenn Greenwald's life, I kind of feel like at times in danger for him being Jewish, being a leftist, an advocate of former President Lula da Silva, who was just recently released from prison, whereby he was put in prison on trumped up charges of corruption, which was flimsy evidence wise. Um, and he's married to a gay politician, David Miranda, from the Socialism and Liberty Party. So I'm basically, in a nutshell, Glenn Greenwald is not a right winger. On the March 4th, Glenn Greenwald was on the Daily Caller on a podcast called Wall Street Meets Washington. Christian DeTuck and Malik are the co-hosts of the show, and they touch upon the subject of socialism. And when doing so, his words would get a lot of folks on the left a little bit on a tizzy, and I honestly don't think it's all that big a deal. But as I said, um, he basically said and that and I think jokingly in jest that Steve Bannon, Donald Trump, and Tucker Carlson were all socialists, and I I'm going to explain why I don't think it's that big a deal in a moment, but I'll let you hear his words, and you can see what's going on. Hold on one moment. Here we go. In a second.
And I, would describe a lot of people on the right as being socialists. I would consider Steve Bannon to be a socialist. I would consider the 2016 iteration of Donald Trump, the candidate, to be a socialist based on what he was saying. I consider Tucker Carlson to be a socialist. Now if you have Governor Cuomo who wants to give tens of millions of dollars to Amazon to bring an office to New York, you have AOC, an actual self-identified socialist, standing up and saying, this is outrageous. And then you have Tucker Carlson going on his Fox News program and saying, I agree with her completely, because I think people are realizing that neoliberalism doesn't work. And I think the real right-left difference, to the extent that those terms even have any currency or coherence, I think you see in France.
Okay, well, you heard it for yourself. And I think what he was basically saying when discussing socialism, and because socialism has become kind of popularized again, um, popularized in the last few years because of not just because of the economic woes that's happening in this country, which needs radical transformative changes, but the presidential campaigns of Bernie Sanders in both 2016 and 2020 has pretty much repopularized the terminology socialist or socialism for the first time in decades. Just for many, many years, um, the, we've been scared of hearing the word socialist. You hear the word socialist, and you have visions of the Soviet Union. You had visions of China and North Korea. You had visions of the Holocaust down in Cambodia, called the Killing Fields. And so people think all that is socialism. None of that. Socialism is communism, which there's a difference between socialism and communism. And even within communism itself, there are many different varieties of communism that exist. And while I would not want to live under a communist government, um, there are individuals who are communists that actually have done good things in regard to or social and economic justice and civil liberties and things of that nature too. And I'm saying this as somebody who's critical of all forms of Marxist Leninism myself. It's just not for me. But as I said, I would not want to live under a Soviet style government or anything of that nature. But that is different, a whole different animal from what you would call socialism, or what socialism means to me. Now I know, you hear me mention Norway and Sweden and Denmark and all these European countries, doing these socialistic things like healthcare for all and having, a relatively strong labor movement. The unions are pretty strong. The safety net's pretty generous. People have long vacation time, and I mean, people have pretty much the good life over there. Now, is it the Socialist Republic of Sweden or the Socialist Republic of Norway, or is it the Socialist Republic of France? Of course not. Not at all. Socialism, those countries are socialist in a way compared to the United States, in the sense that socialists can run openly, get their parties elected, and either directly govern or work in coalition with other political parties and govern. And when they're in opposition, they're the strong opposition. Whereas even with the Bernie Sanders movement and Bernie Sanders and AOC and the rest of the squad that's in Congress right now, and all that's going on, the socialism in the United States is still very, very weak compared to the rest of the other Western nations, where it's more popular and accepted. So I mean, and I think that basically because of a lot of the economic woes and everything, and Bernie Sanders is pretty much uh, addressed in the last few years, um, out of the right. Such a movement. It wasn't socialist, but it was a populism of sorts that championed working people, at least on rhetoric. And I think that's basically what Glenn Greenwald was implying, that as times gets really bad, that people are willing to listen to a message that's different from the status quo. And the status quo in the United States pretty much is that whatever corporations and corporate special interests wants, they get, and they are first, and everything else is second. And that's why the socialists are trying to put a stop to that. And not Donald Trump himself, but him using his words. Maybe there are people on the other side that they may have different solutions as far as how to deal with the income inequality. However, everybody realized that the status quo that the two-party system provides is screwing us all over. Now, when he said it's Steve Bannon and Donald Trump and Tucker Carlson are socialists, it's because they use rhetoric that overlaps with some aspects of the left. And that's, I mean, That's what it comes down to. Um, it doesn't mean that Donald Trump, Steve Bannon, and Tucker Carlson favors Medicare for all or favors, Green New Deal or free college or guaranteed jobs and things of that nature. Doesn't mean that, but it meant that the whole I would call it the Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton model of neoliberalism is pretty much something that's being soundly rejected, and it's being rejected on the left and on the right. And I think what it comes down to is a lot of nuance and over semantics, and that's what it came down to. And I think that maybe the leftists are just being a little bit too alarmist about Glenn Greenwald's words. I think he was trying to mm, appeal to a right wing audience what socialism is, and maybe they can have their horizons broadened, so to speak, and people realize, well, maybe socialism isn't that bad. Maybe there's more to socialism than what Fox News tells us socialism is. And so he's kind of serving the same purpose as someone like Jimmy Dore when he goes on the Tucker Carlson show and make his case for what needs to be done in this country and all of that. And frankly, while I disagree with Tucker Carlson on most political matters, I am frankly glad that he would have someone like Jimmy Dore. And I believe that I think that Tucker Carlson have also had Glenn Greenwald in the past too. I'm not sure, but I think so on his program. So I think that maybe the left is just getting a little bit too alarmist about words or what have you, and they should relax and realize in context what Glenn Greenwald was doing all along. He hasn't lost his mind or anything like that. We're talking about a man who's an advocate of Ed Snowden and Julian Assange. So he's not going off into the dark side on the right, or he's not having he's not in cognitive decline and not knowing what terminologies mean and all that. So I think maybe people on the left is making much to do about a fairly non-issue and just leave it at that. Um, I like Glenn Greenwald, and I admire the work he's done in the past, and being this, an advocate for civil liberties and a strong advocate for freedom of speech, which is something I think that many from today's left and more leftists support freedom of speech than people think. But there has been an increase over the years of the left kind of embracing censorship, and it is to their own detriment when they do it. And really, honestly, um, censorship is a very, very politically conservative solution to solving what you would call hate speech or speech that you disagree with, what have you. And Glenn Greenwald also eloquently sides with freedom of speech. And I wish that many more on the left would see his viewpoint on issues like freedom of speech. And while we need to have that preserved, anyway, if you like what you heard, press like and comment. If you disagree, well, that's fine. Comment anyway. As a First Amendment absolutist, it is my duty to inform you that if you're passionate about something, please utilize that platform because we're the muckrakers of our time. Um, hit that subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button so you'll be able to keep up with my mad ramblings and the notification bell, of course. And until next time, I am American Social Democracy. Peace and class struggle yesterday, today, tomorrow, until we have full economic and social justice for all.